Also, do one of you or both of you?
No, I mean, can we drink in peace? Can we drink in peace?
I'm talking. Can we please what?
There's nothing in these cups. Actually, I have my gum in these cups. All right, well, let's move to the fourth book.
Okay, moving right along.
So we can...
The next book we're looking at is Practicing Transnationalism, American Studies in the Middle East.
Awesome.
This is a book, this is an edited volume, it looks like, that's been edited by Eileen T. Lundy and Edward J. Lundy. So I'll just go through maybe some of the chapter titles, including some of the contributors to this volume. The first part is called Questions and Challenges, and the first chapter is called The American Question by Patrick McGreevy. There's another chapter, The Politics of American-Style Higher Education in the Middle East by Nima Nouri. The next section is called Contexts and Implications. We have a chapter called The American Liberal Education System and Its Development at the American University of Beirut by Betty Anderson. Shifting the Gorilla, The Failure of the American Unipolar in the Middle East by Scott Lucas. Discourse, Palestine and the Authoritative News Media by Luke Peterson. Arabic Poetry in America, Hani Ismail Al-Ayyan. And The Stones We Throw Are Rhymes, Imagining America and Palestinian Hip-Hop, David A. McDonald. And then the final section, we have three chapters, one by Colin Cavell called American Studies in the Arabian Gulf, Teaching American Politics in Bahrain. Waiting for Hassan, Lewis Hine, Service Learning and the Practical Pedagogy of American Studies by Kate Samsel-Willman, and Teaching in the Middle East. So I guess this looks like a book that is basically looking at American studies as it's being taught and practiced in the Middle East. And I think all of us in some ways can kind of relate to at least some of the topics and some of the themes that emerged out of this particular volume. Bassam, do you want to add something?
Actually, I think Nadya, considering her connection to AUB and her position at AUB and the existence of an actual department at AUB that actually does that, can you tell us a few things about this book and the field?
To be honest, have not read this book yet, but I am familiar with a number of the contributors, and the fact that, this book is also part of a growing field of really excellent edited volumes and or monographs that really discuss in a much more critical and rigorous way the politics of knowledge production around area studies, around Middle East studies, as well as around U.S. knowledge on and in the Middle East. And the contributors, several of the contributors in the book, like Betty Anderson.
Okay, all right, Nadya, we cut you off while fixing a little glitch. So if you could kind of recap without recapping everything.
Well, I was just saying that this book is part of a very rapidly growing, I would say, field of edited volumes and monographs that examine knowledge production within and on Middle East studies, on area studies. But one of the things that is notable about some of the contributors to this particular volume, such as Patrick McGreevy and such as Betty Anderson, is that they actually talk about, going back to the point that you mentioned when you were introducing me, they actually talk about the implications of the growth of the field of area studies and Middle East studies from within the region. So they also discuss the impact that that's had on both the emergence of AUB, and in Betty Anderson's case, and on the impact of the creation and growth of the Center for Arab and Middle Eastern Studies at AUB, which is one of the few area studies centers on the Middle East from outside the US or Europe, for that matter. So I think this particular volume actually offers an additional well-rounded angle to some of the other examinations of knowledge production in the field.
Awesome. And actually, I know Patrick McGreevy. He's the dean. Yeah, he retired from AUB, but he's the dean who hired me or recruited me at AUB when I taught one semester there in 2010. Praise actually comes from John Carlos Rowe, University of Southern California, author of The Cultural Politics of the New American Studies and editor of Post-Nationalist American Studies. And this field is going to continue to grow as time goes by for reasons that have to do with, I think, changes within the United States that are, moving in various directions. I'm not a big fan of the decline of the U.S. discourse, not because there is no decline in any sense, but because I think it over dramatizes the point and sometimes goes too far. So I think this is another a good volume to select from, especially for a course that would like to address this topic using all sorts of different authors and scholars who actually are somewhat multidisciplinary based on what I can see here. Anyway, anything else about practicing transnationalism? All right, let's move to the 5th volume.